Okay, we're live. Yes. Thank you so much, Mike, for joining me again for our awesome movie nights that we have every Wednesday. And
That's right.
thank you to our sponsors at FAMRA so much for putting this on and helping us pay the bills and while having a good time. And
Thank you, FAMRA.
yes, if you want to check out the FAMRA app, it is free in the iTunes Apple Store. And check it out. We're hanging out on Mike. You're on a camel on the app.
I am on a camel.
I'm on a rug.
I have the higher ground.
You do.
What am I doing? What am I doing? I'm trying to. Am I giving the thumbs up?
I think you're giving thumbs up unless your thumbs are middle fingers.
I'm going to say I'm giving you the double deuce from way on top of this. This is a 2-hump camel, and
It
I
is.
forget what the difference is between the single hump and the 2-hump, but I know that there is some biological discord there.
Do you want to pick a different space that we go to? They added 4 new spaces.
Yeah, let's go to a different space. How do we change spaces?
The bottom left has the 3
teleport.
dots. Teleport. There you go.
Oh my god.
Mhm.
Wait. Hold up. This is sick. There's ooh. Well, you know what? Given our subject matter tonight, I'm going with we're gonna blast off to desert parentheses cool
Yeah.
nights.
This
Wait, we're
is-
still in camel mode.
This is why I picked this one and to begin with, because I knew it had sand and the dirt and stuff, kind of like
Yeah.
the Arizona desert or something, or Mexico desert. That's why I picked this one. So it fits thematically. But maybe we can return to this if we come back. Maybe we want to pick out some new
Yeah.
spaces.
I'm gonna jet us off to another zone
Cool.
if I can. Here we go. Let's see what's up. Ooh, yes, romantic dinner date. There
Very
we go.
nice dinner date. We got a whole plate of nothing right in front of us. We got to use our
That's great.
imaginations,
Look,
like Hook or something.
I'm gesturing at the empty dinner
What?
plate.
Yeah, he's like, what is this?
Where's
Yeah.
the food? That's
Yeah,
cool.
it's
I like the
like,
whoa. There's eye art on the wall. If you look at the
Oh, if you move it around, you're right.
Yeah.
Whoa. I was hoping someone would happen if I click on it, but nothing happens.
no.
There's more eye art. Yeah, one eye on
Cool.
my side.
They're getting really interesting design work in these days.
Yeah, I like it. It's pretty cryptic. I like our dinner. We have to use our imaginations, like Hook.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This is, or it's like the Sartre play No Exit, where they don't realize they're actually in hell. There's no way to get out. There's no way to get out of this room.
Perfect. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's get started. Tonight we're talking about Yojimbo and also A Fistful of Dollars. Which
That's
reminds me,
right.
I gotta grab my trusty iPad. I'm sorry. Once again, I forgot it. So please excuse me 1 second. Okay,
Are you back with me?
I am back with you.
That's so good.
This is something I wanted to put on here ahead of time, and I forgot because I had to charge it. But yeah, we got Yojimbo 1961, and then
Yojimbo 1961.
A Fistful of Dollars is what, 1963 or 64?
64. Is it 63 or 64? I think it's
I'll look it up real quick.
It was released in Italy in 64 and in the States in 67.
There you go. Impressive. These are both amazing films in their own right, even though The Fistful of Dollars is, an unofficial remake of Yojimbo. I guess we'll start with Yojimbo, directed by Akira Kurosawa, the man, the legend. And I really wanted to see the sequel Sanjuro, and I did start it. And that was a really cool opening for the first 5-10 minutes of that movie. I was really looking forward to seeing where that goes, so I'll have to revisit that myself later on.
Rewatching these films, I've actually been on a bit of a Kurosawa kick, for a soft kick, I would say. It's not like a full blown shin buster, but it's kind of like a toe stub of a kick.
Did you watch Seven Samurai? And
I watched The Bad Sleep Well, and I watched Drunken Angel, Stray Dog. I watched a bunch of Kurosawa stuff, and he is so good at framing and at texture and at the elements. One thing that's really impressive that I always get a kick out of is when a filmmaker is able to put fire, wind, water, and dirt all in the frame together. And
Yeah.
Kurosawa is one of those guys that does this very, very well.
And
You
he does a
really get
lot
a
of.
sense of the
Sorry, go ahead. My bad.
no, you just get a sense of just like how elemental the earth is in these pictures. I mean, when Toshiro Mifune, the nameless Ronin, comes into this dysfunctional, violent town in the beginning, there's all this dust behind him, and he feels like this force of nature.
Yeah, absolutely. I love how there's a lot of like layering in the framing too. Like comes to mind is like the um, his bartender friend, restaurant owner, who was
Yeah,
eventually captured and tied up, and he's hanging in the forefront of one scene, and then behind him is like the guys that run out behind him, and they're looking for the main dude with no name, and then in the background you see our main character. So there's like a good 3-layer kind of thing happening there.
well, especially I was thinking about the innkeeper as an exposition deliverance mechanism. Like when he first gets into town and there's like some weird shady characters lurking about, and he gets the impression that all is not well in this village. When he goes to the innkeeper's house, and the innkeeper is opening windows and being like, "Oh, the guy from this house doesn't like the guy from that house, and he has the sake distillery, and this guy has the silk factory." Like, you really get a sense of storytelling through space and through framing in that regard, and it's really economic visual storytelling.
Yeah, I'm not sure how you felt about like this, but I feel like this movie was also kind of a little dissection of like capitalism, of how it works, and I guess there was of course the adjustment of keeping the the theme of like the land where it's like you're past the time of the samurai, you're coming into this new thing. There's no longer, I mean, there's still swords and things like that, but now people are starting to have guns, and it's more of a cowardly weapon than the sword. And but having these two bosses in this town, it's all about profits, and meanwhile the whole entire town falls apart, and it's more like profits over people. You know what I mean? This is how I felt. And what happens is like a warning of what happens, and that's like to the extreme of what happens to capitalism, and the eventuality of it. Like it will happen eventually. Like there eventually will be two companies just battling it out across the whole.
I want to, the next remake of this is Coke versus Pepsi.
Yeah, exactly.
And then there's I don't know. There's
Is that Call Me Mr. Pibb?
Damn, yeah, Pibb comes in. Pibb fucks everybody's shit up in the soda street wars of 2022.
Yeah, he can call himself Mr. Pibb, or like Dr. Thunder, or like RC Cola.
I mean, he's the soda with no name.
Yeah, he'll like look out, past through the window, and on the ground he'll see like an empty can of Tab sitting sideways, just looking terrible.
Oh my god, yeah,
I love it.
Please call me Mr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper was my father.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't go to school for all those years.
But I think I've been thinking about this a lot today. I've been meditating about something. About we've been watching these films for so many years, and we've been talking about remakes for season after season of this program now. And when you engage in this kind of repetitive activity, you kind of start to think, what is this all about? Why are we doing this to ourselves? And the answer sort of started to crystallize when I was watching these films, and I realized at the end of the day, there's only one story. There's only one story that's ever told, and it's this eternal return. And you have Sergio Leone ripping off Akira Kurosawa, and Kurosawa ripping off Dashiell Hammett's The Red Harvest, where it's the Continental Op, another unnamed, drifter who comes into this town and stirs up trouble. And but I love it in Red Harvest. The town is called Personville, but because they all speak colloquially and things are written phonetically, they refer to it as Poisonville. And then Dashiell Hammett probably ripped that story off from somebody else. There's a fucking 17th or 18th century play called A Servant of Two Masters that has a very similar structure.
Wow.
And that Italian play was, I'm sure, lifted from someone else, and so on and so on. There's this mysterious ether that artists occasionally pluck from.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what Remake, Reboot, Recycle is all about, is about uncovering that secret story.
Definitely. And it's funny that while we watched the Nick Cage
Bad Lieutenant.
Yes, thank you. The Nick Cage Bad Lieutenant. I had a theory in that movie where I thought that he was going to go to the drug dealers and put his enemies against his enemies in a shootout. And I was like, oh, that's a pretty clever idea. I'm sure that's been done before in cinema. It has to. And then the next week, he chooses these two movies, which are, the antithesis of that idea, which is truly great. And I really want to read Red Harvest by Dashiell Hammett.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of the all-time greatest pulp writers of all time. He's just so cool. And I hear, besides Red Harvest, I hear it was also taken on one of his movies.
The Glass Key.
Thank you. Yeah. The Glass Key.
The Glass Key was also it was a book originally, and then was turned into a film, I think, in 1932.
Yes. Yeah. So apparently, those two things from Dashiell Hammett were huge inspiration for Kurosawa. Very cool. But I love how you trace the lineage of kind of where ideas come from. I think I do that a lot with music, or at least I used to. From working at a record label, I got really tired of music, but I revisit stuff every now and then. And I when I was younger and really excited about music and exploring the past history of certain things and styles, and maybe people that you like, people that they like to listen to. I always think of like Eric Clapton, just for example, is like, people are like, oh, he's a great guitar player. Then, oh, well, he
borrowed. He's also a great anti-vaxxer.
Yeah, right.
Phenomenal at denying COVID safety. Just right. An absolute.
The insane blues man. And he, lifted from a bunch of blues, musicians from like the 1920s, and through the 40s, I guess. But, like Robert Johnson and, Blind Willie McTell and such. And then, you listen to, maybe, those artists, and you hear those, inspirations and influences, and then you kind of, hear maybe Robert Johnson's like, oh yeah, I really liked Leadbelly and some older blues musicians. You're like, oh shit, there's a whole another level above that too,
Oh, yeah.
And so you listen to those inspirations. And so when I used to like write guitar riffs, I'd like, maybe make a play on some of the older riffs, and then someone's like, that sounds like a Cream riff. I'm like, no, it's not, but I guess I can see that connection because
they come from the same place.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that's where the magic is kind of made, when you find that sweet spot of like, maybe a famous creative of whatever, and where their inspiration came from. You find that mojo, you can link into it.
There's a great book, and of course, I'm blanking on the title, but it traces the origins of the blues, like what is the first instance of like the first instance of heartache. I think like the first time anyone uses the phrase heartache is in Lord Byron, and there's a oh no, you know what it was? It was. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to redact everything I just said. It was the etymology. It was talking about the blues, and it was the etymology of the phrase "lovesick," and they trace "lovesick" to, I think, a passage in the Book of Job in the Bible.
I was going to say, Song of Solomon or like King David probably wrote like a song that involved heartbreak or like blues or stuff like that before,
well, it's like the phrase is, I am sick of love, was the but if you go back even further, there's a fragment of poetry from the Greek poet Virgil, and it roughly translates to this kind of jumbled sentence that's effectively, there are tears for things. And the argument is, this is the first recorded instance of a human expressing having the blues.
Wow.
It is really crazy to think about.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's flash forward to 1961 Japan, which we're then going to rewind to Edo period Japan.
Yeah. This is pretty incredible. I love how once again he comes into the town with a mystical force with him, with the wind and the dirt blowing everywhere, and he kind of quickly gets the rundown, the lowdown of like how the town works, what's happening with the situation, and right away he's like, I'm not going to go for one side or the other, but I'm going to check them both out and most likely play them against each other and win because they just both need a great warrior, so it's money,
Mm-hmm.
But I think he senses that the is like the worst town he's ever experienced. It's run down. There's no one doing anything. Everyone seems like in a tumultuous situation. So I think he says he wants money, but I think he's there to fix a problem. Underneath it all, and maybe he won't admit that to himself. But I think he is just a naturally helpful guy, and he wants to do the right thing, even though he might consider himself a something as a degenerate or lesser than that ideal. But I think his character comes to the forefront of what through his actions and what he does. He doesn't accept money unless he thinks he's considered a job is actually done for. He's constantly giving money back to people or not paying at all, living off of goodwill. And then maybe when he does get money, he'll pass it on to someone who needs help. And like for instance the woman and the with her husband and the kid and send them off and gave them all the money. Great character.
I mean, maybe this is the worst town he's ever been, but like, I think one of the geniuses is we don't know this guy. We don't know his name. We don't know where he's coming from or where he's going. In fact, it's a lovely existential moment. The first thing we see is he comes to a fork in the road and literally flips a stick in the air to determine his path. Mm-hmm. This is a very existential film, and I think it's important to think about it in the context of what's happening in post-World War II cinema and post-World War II art. Particularly, I mean, Japan suffered a crippling defeat at the end of the Second World War, and there is obviously a lot of trauma being reckoned with as a result of the Second World War. I mean, we're kind of still dealing with that, even today. And I think Kurosawa is really interesting of the that generation of Japanese filmmakers. He kind of has a rap for being the most westernized. If you compare him to someone like Ozu or Mizoguchi, like these guys, like their cinematic structuring and narrative focus doesn't translate as much or as accessibly to Western audiences as Kurosawa does. I mean, look, Kurosawa made many adaptations of Shakespeare. I mean, this is kind of a loose adaptation of Dashiell Hammett. So I think that there's something interesting there to consider.
Is this the time period of when all the Japanese noir stuff was coming out as well?
I mean,
so I feel like it's funny how he is, considered more of a Western type, I guess, stylistically, but has traditional Japanese content as opposed to, the Japanese noir movies that are out. I think during this time, maybe the 70s, I would say, maybe a little later, maybe late 60s.
He made a few like the
those are more like Americanized, like Westernized, like they try to be American, noir films, but it's like with Japanese characters. So I remember Kurosawa saying he's tired of like the Yakuza. He's tired of like the real life Yakuza of all the gangsters and stuff like that.
Well,
so
he did make a few noir. I mean, noir is such a slippery term because it really kind of it can work its way into any culture. Any country can produce noir. It's like anytime there's like a big national trauma that the collective psyche can't really fully process, that's when noir kind of like rears its ugly head, and it's like, well, what is it all about? Where do all the bodies go? Who am I? why should I be so good if the world is so bad? Da 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 da. That
Love
sort
it.
of thing. And I feel like The Bad Sleep Well is a noir that Kurosawa did, or High and Low is a noir. Stray Dog is a Kurosawa definitely did make his fair share of films that could be categorized as noirs.
I
But
really want to see Stray Dog just because I feel like that name, is the embodiment of this character. How they told him to act like a stray
yeah,
dog and that's why he did his little twitch thing, like a dog has fleas.
he's got this.
And
He's always stroking his chin.
yeah, he's
But,
kind of itching everywhere. And I guess the other guy with the gun, they told him to act like a snake.
Oh, you
And
know
that's
what? That
kind of
guy's great.
yeah, he's awesome.
Tatsuya Nakadai is an
Okay,
amazing. Both these guys are,
yeah.
great fucking actors. But
I guess the main dude was
Nakadai
mhm.
starred in a great series called The Human Condition, and it's three-hour pictures,
Wow.
and it's intense. It is a very emotionally taxing experience to watch this, because it's like you watch this character over the course of 9 hours get just so beaten down. He starts as such an optimist, and I think he's like a doctor, and he's trying to help these Malaysian POWs during the Second World War. And that's the first film. And the second film, he gets conscripted, even though he's a pacifist. He has to go fight. And then the third film is he himself is a POW, and it's just brutal.
Wow.
I mean, these movies are fucking brutal. And then he also was in a great 1979 samurai picture called Hunter in the Dark, directed by Hideo Gosha. And this picture, he plays a one-eyed samurai assassin who has amnesia, and then he goes and works for the Yakuza. But Hideo Gosha, I think, is one of the filmmakers that Tarantino owes a lot, and he probably, I think, has credited him as being a major stylistic influence in Kill Bill. I mean, limbs just flying off, spurts of blood everywhere. There's a great scene where Nakadai is like they have all those fucking paper walls, and Nakadai is just running through like wall after wall after wall after wall, and like just cutting through dudes.
Awesome.
And like one guy like lifts his samurai sword up all hectic fast, but he gets it embedded in like the wood seal. He gets embedded in the wood ceiling, and Nakadai like cuts through his fucking arm. So there's just the rest of the scene. There's just like this arm dangling from the roof. Hunter in the Dark is a lot of fun. I mean, it's a long picture, but anyway.
I guess apparently that the sequel to the Yojimbo was one of the first scenes where they had like blood squirting out of after like a duel, and it's like that scene is so iconic that like it evolved cinema to have that happen more often, and you see it all the time in anime. That big slice cut, then all of a sudden blood squirt, and apparently it was by accident. I guess something happened with these little thing.
Well,
yeah,
I was kind of shocked at some of and I was scandalized at some of the blood spilling in this picture, because it like there's that scene where Nakadai is bleeding to death at the end, and he says, I can't go to heaven without my gun.
Yeah,
it's kind of a weird, it's like one of those weird existential moments.
It was also like a trick too, though, because he wanted to shoot him. It was loaded still, but he started blanking out. He's like, shit. It's like I can't even see, and he's like, I'm done. I'm done. He just like shoots into the ground one last time. Yeah, I love that part. And also I want to say that Toshiro Mifune, who played Sanjuro, he was 41 at the time of Yojimbo. I'm not too far away from that, from that age. I'm rearing its ugly head.
You still have, you have your window of opportunity. You're going to be when we do our remake, when we do the Soda remake.
Yeah, with Nicolas Cage,
yeah, you and Nicolas Cage is one gang member or one gang leader. The Rock is the other. You're the soda guy in the middle.
Love it. Yes, that's amazing.
But you know what? Mifune, he's one of these actors where it's just like, no matter how fucking haggard you make him, he's undeniably a movie star. He just his charisma just fucking shines like a beacon. Like even when he's not even the center of focus in the scene, like when he's like in the background, when he's up on that perch, he's watching the two guys go at it from either side. It's not his fight, but you can't take your eyes off of him, you know?
Uh-huh. Yeah. I love that scene so much. And both sides are so timid and attacking, and they don't really want to attack. They kind of do, and he's just there laughing because he kind of was a shit stirrer to make it happen and then make it boil over.
Both
Um,
of both of these movies, I think, also such good extra casting. I mean, great casting all around, but they really just cast for faces, man. I mean,
yeah, I
did you see
think
that
one of
one tall guy with the mallet?
yes, I feel like I've seen him before in other things too. I love that guy.
He was a former professional wrestler.
Uh,
Um, and I guess he was in a number of pictures. Ironically enough, his last name is Rashomon, and that was another Kurosawa film
oh wow.
title.
I really like the dumb bigger guy that was supposed to be real tough. He kept telling him how tough he was.
Mhm, yeah.
I picked him as one of the slow heavy metal music playing thumbnails.
Oh, great. Was it the guy with the
'Cause
dice drawn on his face or whatever?
I think so. He's just smiling and he's all goofy looking. Looked like he was high in that picture.
Yeah,
So I put it
such
on.
good goon casting.
Yeah, for sure. I love when as you were saying, how great Toshiro looks on screen no matter what. I really love the part where he's beat up and beaten down, and he's kind of more coming to, and he just like looks like shit, and he's just like laughing about what he's gonna do. He's like, he's like, don't smile. He's like, you look even worse and crazier. Like, don't do that, please. Like that's
Yeah.
that's what the other guy said. But I love that scene. I tried to find that and have that be the thumbnail besides him just looking like run down. I wanted to find him, doing that little smirk, but I couldn't
Yeah.
find it. But
I mean, there's that. Yeah, there's I mean, he's so good at framing where there's just like that one swatch of light covering his one working eye at this point. And
yes, yes. We're running low on time already.
oh shit.
But
Okay, should we switch gears to
yes,
1964 Italy? They're
right.
filming in Spain.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I didn't realize they filmed in Spain. I knew it was a spaghetti western, and I was like, is this in Italy or did they go somewhere in America or is it Mexico? Where the story takes place. Uh, Interesting. Spain. Okay.
I think it was. I
Um,
think I'm Yeah, it was Spain.
cool. Very cool. How early on was this for the spaghetti westerns? Was
Very early.
okay.
There were a couple of. I think there was at least one other Western that had been
Mhm.
Italian at this point, but there's a lot of dispute. Everyone wants to take credit for this story.
I bet.
Everyone, Lucio Fulci, who's a tremendous filmmaker in his own right, lots of great, gross, creepy horror films under his belt. He wants to say that he was the first one who said, "Oh, someone should do Yojimbo as a Western." But ultimately, it was Leone, and
Mhm.
Leone made the picture without securing the remake rights, and was
Yeah.
promptly sued,
What was that quote?
justifiably, I might add. Like, well,
Do you remember the quote of what
oh,
Kurosawa
Kurosawa,
said?
it's a good movie, but it's still my movie.
Yeah, he's like, yeah. Gosh, I wish I could had it in front of me. Yeah, he said something like,
It's a fine picture, but it's
"It's
my
a fine
picture.
picture, but it is my picture, and they owe me money, or they will pay me, or
Yeah,
something
so
like that."
they
Yeah,
got 15% of the
15%.
grosses and $100,000, I believe.
Yeah, but that was 15% of the international release, right? I
Hmm.
mean, I'm assuming yeah. So I'm like the international does include the American domestic on top of that as well. So that's good.
Hmm.
And I still feel like he was owed more than 15%, because that whole thing wouldn't exist without him. But still, it is a different take. It's so cool how this story translates so well from an Eastern to a Western. Thematically, it's so cool because it's not like word for word, but you have the same kind of situations
You
pop
have
up.
you know,
Yeah,
there's a lot of
a lot,
rhyming.
a lot.
There's like, there's the gag with, "Oh, actually you're gonna need another coffin," and like, "Hang on, I want to watch this thing burn down," from my haggard ass vantage point.
Yeah, a coffin
Uh
seat. Yeah.
I mean, the gag with the breastplate is so good.
Mhm, mhm.
Um
Yeah, I was also surprised by, I definitely expected it to be similar, but not the same situations as
right.
much. I didn't expect it to be as much, but then again, it was so different in its story as well. So I thought it was, it's incredibly, I guess, maybe a fine line that you can, do that, but I think he did it in a smart way where it's like he almost could have passed it off as like a different property
I
and
don't
not
know. I
like,
mean, watching them back to back, you're kind of. I at
yeah,
least had the
you
impression of.
have
I didn't
to.
know how you thought you were going to get away with
Right.
this.
Yeah, yeah. What yeah, the thing is like you wouldn't have gotten away with it. Like you needed to see Yojimbo first, you know, it's like
Mhm.
and you see like how close it is. Yeah, you're right. It's so close, but it's like I don't know, man. I don't know what he was thinking to do that.
I mean,
He must have really
I'm
wanted to
glad
make
he
it.
did because I mean, if he didn't do this one, we
Mhm.
wouldn't have for a few dollars more,
Yeah,
and
or
then
True
the Good, the
Grit
Bad, and the
or
Ugly, and then Once Upon a Time in the West, and then
mhm.
all of the films that those things were inspired by.
Yeah, I heard
You
Django Unchained
know,
were, you know, really inspired by this as
yeah, well,
well.
the original Django, is really good. That's a Sergio. I think Sergio Corbucci directed that
Mhm.
one, and that's with Franco Nero as again another unnamed drifter who comes into town and he's dragging a coffin with him. This is also the fucking muddiest town you've ever seen. Is Corbucci or sorry, Franco Nero has this coffin with him, and he goes into this bar and he orders a drink, and the bad guys are who's in the coffin, and Franco Nero goes, his name is Django, and then of course at a certain point he flips open the lid and pulls out a machine gun and just guns down everyone.
Yes, that's amazing.
Yeah, Django's great fun, and actually Django uh kind of kicked off a whole bunch of unofficial sequels. There's like
Mm,
Son of Django, Django Rides Again, and,
right.
and Franco
Yes.
Nero is kind of only in some of them. So it's like you're kind of like trying to like guess like, oh, which is the and some of them are kind of like not the official sequel. But he's still doing it. So it's like, oh wait, what is Django?
That's awesome. Like, is this a real Bond film or is this like, you know, you only live twice?
Is this
Kind of,
Casino Royale the
yeah,
original, or
right. That's hilarious. I do. I'm curious on how. Oh, man, I was wondering like with these you know, a Fistful of Dollars was like unofficial remake of Yojimbo, but apparently Last Man Standing was an official remake. Is that true? Did they get permission from
they might
Kurosawa to do that?
they might have. I mean, but also it's like
You said Miller's Crossing was another type of
Miller's
same
Crossing is,
scenario.
Miller's Crossing owes a lot to Red Harvest and the
Mhm,
Glass Key
mhm.
specifically. I mean, again, it's a story of the amoral protagonist who operates under his own mysterious code, who kind of turns two different warring gangs against each other, and it is in depression, or it is like prohibition era America, but there this kind of archetype of the unnamed drifter who rolls into an environment and stirs up trouble. I mean, it's such a wonderful archetype, and it's not even just restricted to like these kind of genre pictures, like
No, I mean, we've seen in like what Mandalorian, you know, Disney property. You know,
yeah, I mean,
that's Lone Wolf and Cub more so
yeah,
than
I
this,
mean,
but
or like even in like the art house scene, like you have Pasolini's Teorema. Terrence Stamp plays this unnamed character who comes into like this bourgeois family's life and goes to seduce every member, from like the hot daughter to like the dad, and like you see the way that like this creates all this chaos and discord.
that's
You
amazing.
know, you could it's a really nice character that, I mean, clearly transcends cultural and historical boundaries.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a good premise or setup for any story. It's like, yeah, a random person with no background just comes into town and things happen, you know, and it
Yeah.
reveals of his character and who he is
Well,
along the way.
it
And
feels like these kind of fairy tales or these folklore stories of like,
yeah,
oh, you don't know, that's the thing with like, I was gonna say, like, there's something kind of devilish and but also angelic about both Yojimbo and we shouldn't call him Yojimbo because that just means the bodyguard. It
yes,
falsely seems like he has a name, but he doesn't have a name.
right.
Like
Sujiro, I guess it's the mulberry field.
Yeah, which is just something he sees.
Right.
And
Which is very cool because it's like earthy. I feel like he's part of the earth elements
yeah, no,
himself.
well, exactly. He's like an elemental figure. He's like,
Yeah.
like a woodland nymph or something. Like these characters that like I feel like I'm talking myself into a tongue twister, and I have to slow down.
I
But
definitely, yeah, I think you're right. Though I think he is like an elemental force, where he is this mysticism, like this ultimate figure of force that comes into town. And I love how yes, he comes in with the wind and there's wind around him, but I love how he takes up his name with like the earth, the
mhm.
land, and that is just being part of that element. It makes you more, I guess, the humanity in a figure is more personified.
Well,
Um,
it also reminds me of something that Alan Watts said about holy people, and like holy people are kind of frustrating to deal with because they always create a lot of conflict wherever they go. No matter how peaceful
sure.
they are, holy people always tend to stir up emotions with people that encounter them. And I think that like it's not a far cry to like look at these kinds of stories and not see like some sort of like Christ-like characteristics in here. Both these guys get beaten within an inch of their life. They essentially get killed. They have to get carried out in coffins, and then they rise again to save the day.
Yeah, I
Man, is
love it.
Yojimbo just the story of Jesus?
No, I don't think so. Uh,
No, it
but
can't be.
he's much cooler. Uh,
It can't be that easy.
yeah, yeah. I wish Jesus would have sliced the Pharisees' arms off and things like that in the money pit.
If Jesus's problems would have all been solved if he just had a fucking sword.
I've been so tight. Just Jesus with the sword. That's the name of the movie.
That's our comic book collaboration is Katana Jesus.
I love it. Yeah, that'd be cool. Just Jesus walks into Bethlehem with a sword, on a donkey, and
That sounds
you-
great.
yeah, I'm down.
Throw in the soda wars and then
Yeah, I guess if you were to remake this, Mike, what would you do? What would you have the premise be? Where would it take place? What time period? Or do you have a casting?
I mean I'm gonna say The Rock and Nicolas Cage.
I love that.
It's got
That's a
to be
lot of
those
fun.
two every single time. The Rock, Nicolas Cage. I mean, I really liked the idea of getting in the mix in this soda war
Soda Wars,
uh
man.
debacle.
Yeah, I'm,
I
I'm
mean, what do
curious.
you think? Where would you put it? Who
Yeah,
would you cast?
because I love the idea how Yojimbo was uh, in Asia, and then Fistful of Dollars is in the West. So can we change the location again? Where could we put it? Could we maybe make it like Colombia, and have just these Colombian drug lords, I guess kind of vouching for this a city, or territories,
Yeah,
a drug war kind of happening, and
that's great.
a drifter comes in, and I guess I love how A Fistful of Dollars was, when he rescued the woman to get back to her husband, and her son to go away peacefully, and he gave the money, and she's like, why are you doing this? And he said, I knew someone like you once, but there was no one there to help. So I feel like that's kind of a piece of his story in the past, a little piece
Mhm.
of what happens to maybe possibly to him. Maybe his wife or whatever was murdered or taken away from him,
I think it's
maybe his child too. So who knows? But I
you know
love
we
that theory kind of idea of it.
yeah, no, that's really lovely. I think well I do want to say, we talked so much about Mifune, but we should talk a little bit about Eastwood because he wasn't the first
Mhm.
choice for this part. He wasn't even the second. He wasn't they went through a lot of
Wow.
no's before they were like, I guess we'll offer it to the guy from Rawhide. And he fucking kills it. I love that, he wasn't a smoker, but he insisted on the cigars
I love
in
that.
this movie because he's like the character always has a foul taste in his mouth.
Yeah, he just needs it to snarl more.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
really a set piece that he needs for his character.
Mhm.
Who are the other forerunners for this role?
Originally it was Henry Fonda.
Oh yeah, that'd
Couldn't
been
get
great.
him because it was too high a price tag.
God, that'd been great.
Uh, and the second choice was Charles Bronson, who turned it down because
Wow.
he's like, this script sucks. and and they went on to be the leads in Once Upon a Time in the West.
Mm.
And there were a number of other actors that they went through before Eastwood. And we're on the subject of reboots and reimaginings. I don't know if you read the I guess it's a few years old now, but the reimagining of Snagglepuss as the Tennessee Williams-esque playwright.
Yeah. Did you read
Comic.
that comic? Yes.
Loved that comic. Loved that comic.
Amazing.
But one of the gags that it had in it that I think about every time I watch Clint Eastwood, which is Clint Eastwood makes an uncredited cameo in that comic, and Snagglepuss tells him, your voice sucks and you need to start impersonating Marilyn Monroe. And every time I watch a Clint Eastwood movie now, I can't help but feel like I'm watching him do a Marilyn Monroe impression. It's that same kind of whispery, breathy, low drawl. And I'm just like, God damn, Snagglepuss, thank you.
I love Mark Russell so much as a writer. I think he does
really
great
smart
political commentary. Yeah, he's a
really
very smart guy. Yeah, absolutely. That's one of my favorites of that year, whenever that year came out, that Snagglepuss comics, Snagglepuss Chronicles came out.
Mm-hmm.
That I was so impressed by that. I did not expect it to be that good. It had no right to be that good. Apparently his Flintstones comic was really good as well.
Where Fred Flintstone was like the socialist Marxist working class hero.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'd love to read that.
The Snagglepuss one really, I thought that was quite lovely.
Yes, yeah, I was very impressed with that, and I kept all my single issue floppies. When they came out, I got them all. I was definitely into that.
Oh my God, who's with you?
My youngest pug.
Oh my God.
Gogo.
Oh my God.
So she's,
well, I mean, there we found the lead for the next Yojimbo.
Yeah, she was
Yojimbo with dogs is for sure the future.
Yeah, it's like a Secret Life of Pets, or the new superhero Pets movie coming out. Yeah, it's my youngest one. She's rambunctious and pooping on the floor over there, trying to potty train her. So I'm just smelling poop right now. So that's fantastic.
That's good.
Yeah, and she's like, take me up, and got to put her on my lap for 5 minutes, then she goes away. Right. But I guess we'll wrap up. I hate to shortchange a fistful of dollars, but I really loved Yojimbo so much, and I think both of these have so much rewatch value. I think, and I would really like to watch Yojimbo again, and then Sejuro, the sequel, and then also Sejuro versus
Zatoichi.
Yes, and Can you explain Zatoichi?
Zatoichi is a series of films about a blind samurai. And it's really wonderful. They rebooted it a few years ago, maybe 10 years ago, with Beat Takashi Kitano, and Todanobu Asano. And I never saw it. I heard it was good, but I love the original, and it's a wonderful series.
God, just watching this maybe really want to watch like everything attached to it. And just
I mean, that's another takeaway from this project of ours that you start to appreciate, is just like the way that these stories have tendrils that just kind of spread out over different media and different continents over decades. Like, you don't even think about it, but like suddenly this story's going to crop up and you don't know where.
Yes. Well, I thank you so much, Mike, for joining me, and thank you for picking these awesome films. I look forward to. Hope we can do this again next week. It's up to you. That'd be fantastic. That's awesome. Yeah. Do you have any in mind of what you would want to do?
I think we should do the 2 Casino Royales.
Cool. All right, that's fun. All right, yeah.
And there's actually, I think, a short form TV adaptation that came out even earlier than the Peter Sellers one.
Wow.
And it's the first James Bond adaptation ever, and it's with an American James Bond.
Do you know how long it was? Was it like?
I think it's got to be under an hour.
Okay, so was it just like one episode?
Yeah, this is one episode.
Interesting. I'll try to track that down.
Yeah.
That's good to know. Yeah, I love learning about like any ancillary material that might be attached to
We
it.
could
Or
we could also do the two Zatoichis, but the
oh
Casino
yeah,
Royale just came to my head.
okay,
That was the first thing I thought of.
I like that. I like what's going off the top of your head. Let's roll with that. Cool, man.
Okay.
So anyone watching, if you want to join us next week, we're gonna do Casino Royale. Thank you, Mike, so much. Can you tell the people what you're working on and where to find you?
Yes, I am a creator of films, music videos, comic books, images, thoughts, ideas.
The best.
Yeah, memes. I can find me on Instagram at Mike Heresy, and I am currently working on a new graphic novel uh, called "You'll Never Take Me Alive," which is a psychedelic detective story set in hell,
Ooh,
and I'm finishing up a, uh, a feature film called "Your Heart Is a Dark and Rotten Place" that will hopefully be done soon.
I love that. Yeah, that's my ideal story I'd like to write is a detective story in hell.
Yeah,
I told you about that before, and it's like, yeah, there's so many things that you can go with. And I tried writing my short story, um, "Manner of Infinite Forms," recently when I was just super high, and I only got so far, and it really, really ran around in circles. But it was fun just to actually write things for once ever, like and have it down and revisit it later to add in more or edit it however in the future. But it was a fun exercise to try out for once in my life and get my brain going like that. So I enjoyed that. So hopefully I'll revisit that sometime soon.
you
Um,
gotta.
yeah, and especially I really want to do it for those guys, American Pulps on Instagram. They're working on their first actual pulp. They're huge, of course, naturally huge pulp fans. That's what the whole entire account is about. And they have a great blog and rating lists and recommendations and uh, films and music and all kinds of stuff. Like great guys, but they're working on their first noir kind of I think a magazine, I believe, what they're working on. Then after that, they're gonna do an actual book of short stories, and hopefully I'll be ready by then. By the time
That's
that's done,
amazing. That's rad.
yeah. But thank you, Mike, so much for joining, man. Once
Thank you for
again,
having me.
dude, you're the man. I love doing this with you, and I was really thinking with planning out the idea of like maybe inviting like some of the Yuck Squad, John and
Oh yeah,
Berto and Clyde and Spencer, and maybe we'll see what they're doing one of these
we'll
days.
get the band back together.
Yeah, man, that'd be fun. That'd be fun. Just have a movie night with the boys and see what everyone thinks about whatever and joke around.
Oh hell
So
yeah.
maybe I'll play around with messaging a friend or two in the future and see who responds and who would want to come and do that. But thank you all for watching. We're gonna head out. Thank you, Famra, our sponsor. Please download Famra. It is free in the iTunes App Store and it is a lot of fun. So we'll see you all later. Good night.
Good night.